Sweat presented by DraftKings, part of a 5-hour pregame power-up block here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. So the Lombardi line will follow us from 10 to high noon, then Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff, leading up to kickoff.
Got it.
At 1 o'clock. I'm just trying to make it easy for you here. Julian Edlow, Josh Applebaum, I'm Emerson Latzia. For now, you're hanging out with us next 2 hours. This is what we have coming up. It's the good stuff. We're going to help you build a money-making lineup, DFS on DraftKings. College football recap. Big day yesterday. Heisman implications, as well as what to expect when the fresh playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. And Hidden Jewels. I thought this segment was under construction. Why are we bringing it back?
I don't know. But I was lied to about it being under construction by our entire production team. They just stopped using the graphic, and now they're, I heard, bringing it back. I don't know. We'll find out. And we'll find out what those bets are that we have on the DK.
Indeed. You're going to help us find some value, hence Hidden Jewels. But let's get cooking here with the first chunk of today's slate around the NFL. First game today is going to kick off in just under an hour and a half from Germany here. We're talking Patriots and Colts. Belichick's seat, as we discussed yesterday, pretty hot. Then the reports coming out yesterday that maybe the two sides are just going to have this mutual parting of the ways in the end. But on yesterday's edition of The Sweat, Saturday edition of The Sweat, I believe both you guys were riding with the Colts money line. Has your opinion on this game changed at all over the last 24 hours, Jules?
No. I think it's a pretty simple handicap.
Okay.
The Patriots, we've been talking all season on this show about how sharps and professionals have been sticking with the Patriots despite the spot, despite the number.
Yep.
It worked against Buffalo. That gave kind of a little bit more reassurance to keep going with them. It's over now. After that game with Washington, it's over. And now we see that reflected in the market. But even, market aside, the Patriots that offense did not do anything against a very bad Washington defense at home. That was a week coming off the Miami loss. Like, if there's a week you're going to do anything, it's that. And you fall apart in that game. Now you got to go on the road to Germany and play a Colts team that, they're not spectacular by any means, but they're solid. They care. They have a chance in a bad division. So I just think, matchup-wise, maybe this allows Mac Jones and the offense to do a little bit more than they have in past weeks. Maybe they get something together. But overall, I just don't see this Patriots team putting it together in this spot. And I'll go with the Colts. Give me the Colts on the money line.
Josh, the Patriots are not only 2-7 overall, they're 2-7 ATS. I believe that's tied for second worst ATS mark in the NFL. But taking this game overseas in Germany, how much changes here with your approach to betting it?
So what's interesting is that at Belichick's press conference when we went to Germany, he was very chipper. He was happy. He seemed like he was in a good mood.
It was uncomfortable seeing him smile, actually.
Which you got to think about as a, Sigmund Freud here. Why is he happy? Does he feel good about his team? Does he not care anymore?
Pretzels with the mustard.
Exactly.
There was a shirtless video of him making his rounds on social media this week. Guy was living his best life, baby.
So there's something going on with Belichick, but I'm kind of with Julian on this one. In terms of the betting market showing a lot of respect here for the Patriots throughout the year, but it looks like the market may just be saying, hey, we respect Belichick, but not so much anymore. I'm with Julian on this one. Give me the money line here on the Colts. What I like about this one is the dog to fave line move. So this game opened, Patriots were a small favorite going into it, laying a point and a half. I think the look ahead was even as high as Pats -4. Flipped all the way now to Colts -2. It was -1 a few days ago, so it's continued to move in favor of the Colts. And to me, there's a couple things going on right now. One is international favorites. Anytime you get one of these early games, you got to be aware of kind of where the edge lies because there's different factors at play. It's a neutral site game. There's a lot of travel involved. One thing we've seen in these international games is that chalk does very well. We saw it obviously with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Dolphins recently, but these international favorites, they're 32-10 straight up, 76%. So the favorites winning 3 out of 4 times. That's much higher than you see during the regular season. Also, the offense here, clear advantage for the Colts. They're averaging 26 points a game, 7th in the NFL. Patriots, we all know, do not score pretty much at all, 15 points points a game, 31st overall. And also, the Colts are the better team. The adjusted win total is Colts 7.5 right now, over -150. Patriots are 5.5 under -150. So I think you have the Colts, the better team, the line move, dog to fave, international favorite. So I think it's a play here to go with the Colts, go on the money line. Patriots have a lot of injuries. No Trent Brown today. That could be a big issue as well. Yep. And is the locker room giving up on Belichick? You're now seeing J.C. Jackson, Jack Jones. There's kind of issues you don't normally see with the Patriots happening now. I'm fading the Pats. Give me the Colts money line today.
All right, from the first game of the day to the best game of the day.
In your opinion.
In my humble opinion. San Francisco travels across the country to Jacksonville. This is a battle of potential Super Bowl contenders here. 49ers looking to end a 3-game losing streak. Jags have won 5 straight. They're also coming off a bye week here. What's the play, Josh?
My play is, you're going to be happy about this, Emerson. Give me the points with the Jags.
Let's go, big man.
My only thing I'm waiting about is, can we get a hook on Jacksonville? Because the odds makers are kind of teasing a possible move up to 3.5. This has been pretty much, opener of -2.5, -3 for San Fran. What I like in terms of kind of the lack of movement, and again, I think looking at line movement, big moves always get you excited, but sometimes the lack of movement also excites you as a data-driven bettor. In fact, right now we're getting almost 70% of bets on San Francisco, yet the -3 hasn't moved at all. But again, the juice is -3, -115 at a lot of shops towards San Francisco. That's important to me because, again, 1 o'clock game, can you hold out for the hook? That way, if the Jags lose by 3, you'll cover with the hook. Also, you look at Shanahan in this spot. He's really not great as a road favorite. He's only 11-14 against the spread in his career. And if you look on the flip side with Trevor Lawrence, he's 4-1 ATS as a home dog since the start of last year. So I'll take the points here with Jacksonville. Ideally, get a hook, if not the 3. And I'll give you a prop bet, Emerson. George Kittle over 38.5. Receiving yards, it's juiced up -120. He's gone over this number in 4 of his last 6 games. Okay. Jags, unfortunately, I'm taking with the points, but they're giving up the 7th most yards to tight ends this year, and they're 264 yards per game overall given up.
What about Jags being number 1 in takeaways in the league, and also Brock Purdy throwing, 4 or 5 interceptions over this 3-game losing streak? I believe over half an interception. So to throw a pick is plus 105 for Brock Purdy.
Putting together some of my analysis on why we're going Niners -3. Purdy's not going to keep turning the ball over. The Jags are not going to keep getting the same turnover luck. So, as you said, Jacksonville, I'm going to turn your words a little bit, benefiting from turnover luck, and in that five game winning streak. Yeah. Purdy making some mistakes that he wasn't making when the team was winning, getting off to that 5-0 start. I think those things are going to flip a little bit. Who do I trust? Both teams are coming off the bye here. That's, they should be well prepared. Who do I trust at their best, getting healthier, being more prepared for the game?
Doug Peterson.
The 49ers, easily. So I'll lay it on the road. I think that this is a get-right spot for the Niners. Yeah. They have Debo back. The O-line is intact. McCaffrey's going. Shortest price in a while on McCaffrey. Anytime touchdown. -185 last I looked. Can throw that in there, too. Okay. So we'll lay it with the Niners.
All right. Also going to be the debut for edge rusher Chase Young in this game. So
and him.
Little nerve-wracking. Anywho, Browns and Ravens, 2 ridiculous defenses here. What bet stands out to you in the DK Sportsbook, Jules?
Yeah, the number's grown a good amount, and with good reason. I lean to Baltimore if you're playing it just on the spread, but I think this is the perfect teaser leg or money line parlay piece if you're putting together 2 legs today. I like Baltimore to win this game. These teams are comparable on defense. Cleveland probably a little bit better, although they're on the road here. Offensively, not even close. The Browns, with Deshaun Watson, without Deshaun Watson, they cannot get it going offensively, whereas Baltimore has everything going its way on offense. They can run the ball with the backs. They can run it with Jackson. They have the deep ball going. They have the screen passes going. I just think, even against a good Cleveland defense, Baltimore should be fine in this spot. We saw Baltimore go to Cleveland, and it was a game without Watson, and beat down the Browns 28-3. Baltimore had a ton of injuries in that game. Now they're healthy and at home. They're going to win this one.
All right, Texans at Bengals. Josh, want to hit on this with you. Some good quarterback play, including from rookie C.J. Stroud. And this one looks like the Bengals have done a 180. Looking like that Super Bowl team from a couple seasons ago here. What's the play?
Yeah, and obviously you're seeing the Bengals play much better than they did at the start of the year, but I think this could be an opportunity. Maybe they squeak out a win, but I like the points here, actually, the Houston Texans, Emerson.
Jamar Chase 50-50 to play in this game, by
He's
the way.
50-50. You also have T. Higgins, who's out for this one, so there's definitely some injuries. I know there's a big story with the Texans. They have a lot of guys on their injury report, but again, to me, it's the quality versus quantity aspect in terms of missing Higgins and Chase being 50-50. But let's just look at how the market has moved. This game is moving toward the Houston Texans. You had the Bengals open as high as -8, -7.5. That line is now down to 6.5. Some books are even down to 6. And that's notable because 76% of bets are going Cincinnati. So even though the public is hammering Joe Burrow back on that Burrow train, the line's actually going away from Burrow. Now, part of that obviously is injury related, but I think there's an opportunity to take C.J. Stroud in the points here. Stroud, obviously after an incredible game last week, had a late comeback, put up some incredible stats. He's 4-1 against the spread as a dog in his career. So I think you take the points here, shop around, get the 6.5. And then also one thing kind of piqued my interest on the DraftKings Sportsbook. We're wondering, hey, no T. Higgins, Chase is banged up. Who could be the X factor here in this game receiving-wise for the Bengals? Trenton Irwin, Emerson, the pride of Stanford, 31.5 receiving yards.
Guy.
The over is -140. So why are the odds makers juicing up Trenton Irwin of all people? Maybe he's a guy that comes to play today. Houston's giving up 238 yards per game through the air. That's the 24th worst in the NFL.
All right, take us to Saints-Vikings.
Yeah, this is a really tough game. It's going to go one of two ways, and none of my handicap would have anything to do with the Saints, really. It's all about the Vikings. Are they going to fall flat after that ridiculous, emotional comeback with Josh Dobbs in the mix, or is that going to build momentum and they're going to run with this here? I would lean Saints, but I really don't have a strong feel for this game because we don't know what Minnesota is going to be now.
Okay. All right, we're going to break down this game much more coming up, including targeting Josh Dobbs here. But right now, we will take a quick break from the NFL. No Harbaugh, no problem for Michigan. What this means for the Wolverines. Final 2 weeks of the regular season.
DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Welcome back to the pregame power-up, everybody. We are taking you all the way up to kickoff with the Lombardi line on following the sweat here. Then Brent Musburger counts us down to kickoff on DraftKings Network and VSiN. It's almost 5 full hours of NFL coverage, and I say almost because let's just recap yesterday's huge college football games real quick here, you two. Week 11 of the college football season now officially behind us, and this Heisman race super tight right now, or at least it was until Oregon's Bo Nix. What he did yesterday against USC, 412 yards.
He did a lot. You would think they would maybe score more than 44 and a half points doing all that.
His head coach, though, did not hesitate pushing the Heisman narrative after the win.
Oh, how about that crowd? Absolutely electric group. Made that really special. It was fun to sit out there and watch two elite quarterbacks battle it out. Obviously we've got a really special one on our sideline. I think that's a Heisman-worthy performance from Bo, and fun to do it in front of fifth largest crowd ever here in Autzen Stadium. So we knew that it was a talented team. We knew that they were dangerous and they had the ability to come back. So I don't know that anybody ever felt relaxed. Disappointed a little bit with our finish because I think we're a much better team than what we showed down the stretch.
All right, so he went from plus 200 before the game to minus 140 to win the award afterwards. Has 3 more games, including the likely Pac-12 championship appearance, to show himself to voters here. Right now, is he your pick?
Well, I was also disappointed with their play down the stretch because they scored 36 points. You got to score more than that. But, yeah, it was a Heisman-worthy performance by Bo Nix. First 2 throws of the game went for 77-plus yard touchdowns. Maybe that speaks more to the lack of ability to tackle by USC, but the odds here are
125.
Yeah, the odds here are appropriate. And what it comes down to, we can argue about who's playing better between Nix and Penix, but it's going to come down to most likely who wins this Pac-12 championship game in Vegas. Neither guy is going to drop off too dramatically or have that bad of it. Like if Michael Penix just is awful and throws 2 interceptions and does nothing against, what do they have, Arizona State or someone, sure, you can fall off of it, but unless somebody has a terrible game against somebody that they shouldn't, these 2 guys are just going to be in the mix, and it's going to come down to who wins that Pac-12 title game and who looks better in Vegas.
Okay, Josh.
And that's why the number is what it is, because Oregon's a heavy favorite in that game in the rematch.
Okay, so his odds totally flip. And then you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who goes off for Ohio State yesterday. He shoots up the odds board, now 3rd on there, plus 450, crying out loud. I know this is typically like a quarterback award here, but what kind of chance are we giving this kid?
Yeah, definitely deserves a chance here. You're looking at a lot of mock drafts as well where he could go, 2-3 to the Bears, get a quarterback and a wide receiver. That could be a big, coup for them in the draft. But interesting, and shout out to Mitch Moss, colleague at VSiN here. He did a great job of kind of bookmarking the odds before yesterday's games than after. And again, Bo Nix, you got to respect it. He's now moved to a minus 125 favorite. He was tied with Penix at plus 200. To me, if you look at the stats, and this is definitely a stat-based award, you're looking at, again, the numbers here right now. Bo Nix, 29 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions here. He's been great. Rating of 184.7. Penix, 170.5, 28 TDs, 7 INTs. So more interceptions here for Penix. Bo Nix has been better. I think this kind of speaks to Bo Nix in the transfer portal, Emerson, because remember, he started at Auburn, very highly recruited, highly touted. His numbers were okay, but didn't really flash as much as people thought. But then going to Oregon, great decision on his part because you get into a pass-happy offense, and now you're the Heisman favorite. So I'm a little worried you're missing the boat on the number here. It's reactionary if you take Nix right now because, again, you could have gotten a plus number yesterday, but I think he deserves to be in the driver's seat right now.
Could have gotten a huge plus number.
Yeah, what was the opener
Oregon? Well, I don't even know the opener, but after Oregon lost to Washington, that's when Penix became minus 140, and Nix kind of fell down the board. But as you're mentioning, it speaks to the transfer portal. You basically just also mentioned the career of Michael Penix, who was at Indiana, got hurt, wasn't playing as well, and goes to Washington into that offense, and now he's thriving.
Look, the 2 biggest games of the Pac-12 yesterday, Oregon, USC, Washington holding off Utah there towards the end. You sound very disgruntled about what went down with Oregon.
When you're wrong, you're wrong. A lot of opportunities left on the board by the Ducks. You
Some
take
friends
the L,
on Twitter letting you know
bet.
you're wrong too.
A lot of friends on Twitter. I love you all. Dan Lanning, that first half team total, if you got it early in the week when I put it out in my best bets article, that missed by 2 or 1.5. 2 and it cashes. What does Dan Lanning do? Doesn't kick extra points. Doesn't kick 2 of them. Misses both of the 2-point conversions. That was unfortunate. But yeah, like Lanning said, I'm a little concerned about Oregon's inability to put that game away at home against USC. But they're still, assuming they don't slip up, going to be favored over Washington in the rematch to get that revenge win over the Huskies in Vegas.
I mean, right now, Josh, you're looking at implications there for Pac-12 championship game. I mean, the 2016 Washington Huskies are the last Pac-12 team to claim a spot in the college football playoff field here. They seem to be in good position. And at halftime yesterday against Utah, it looked like maybe it wasn't going to go the way that it ended.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And again, I think looking from the betting market perspective, Emerson, what really surprised me when you're looking toward that USC game is the fact that the public was on laying the points with Oregon and going over. What happened? Under and the dog cashes. So yesterday was just kind of a weird day in college football, and the public had a good day in the most heavily bet games of the day, which wasn't good for me as a contrarian, wasn't good for the sports books. I mean, let's start with that Penn State game. That was 4.5 pretty much. It speaks to this situation here where James Franklin just cannot cover, cannot beat good teams. He's now 7-11 against the spread, 38% against top 10 teams. And then also this betting angle here, when two ranked teams play each other, just take the favorite. That's now 22-11 ATS, 67%. So public said, no Harbaugh, doesn't matter, lay the points.
Yeah.
Public got that one right. Then you also look at that Alabama game. I took the points there with Kentucky. It was a line freeze. Didn't move at all despite heavy betting Alabama. What happens? Don't think about it. Take Bama. They roll in that spot. So kind of weird day in college football. Even you look at Georgia. They cover. They were getting 65% of bets. So I think there are situations on Saturdays.
50-something points, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They rolled in that one. So yeah, tough. Weird day for contrarians. Again, there were some dog to fave line moves that hit. One was San Jose State, and then also Virginia Tech.
All right, so an impressive performance, though, as you guys have already mentioned, by Michigan without Jim Harbaugh there. There's some Penn State fans out there who are quite disgruntled and kind of wishing that Penn State should have asked the Big Ten to suspend James Franklin for this game. That was an interesting play call. What was that, with like 4 or 5 minutes to go? They went for it on fourth down, like deep in their own territory here. But what was your biggest takeaway from that game yesterday, Jules?
Biggest takeaway from that game, Josh already hit on it. Same old James Franklin. I think we know that. And then Michigan, they got a win that was for real. And it can't be both, I guess. If we're going to talk down about Penn State and then say, oh, Michigan got the big win going on the road, beating Penn State. I think it has to be a mix of the two. But like we said, we talked about it on the show yesterday. The market didn't react to Harbaugh's absence, and that wound up being correct.
Okay, Josh, anything else stand out to you, like in that game?
I think just in terms of Franklin not coming through, and then also the offense. You've seen this before, where Penn State plays pretty good defense.
Great. Neither offense looked great. They're in for a rude awakening next year when these other powerful offenses currently in the Pac-12 are going to be joining them.
I'll say J.J. McCarthy was in the Heisman mix for a while.
He's fallen.
You don't get to be in the Heisman mix if you don't throw a pass in the second half.
Yeah, also, he didn't back up his bet tweet either, like the night before, after when Harbaugh was announced.
Well, he tried to tell us, Emerson, bet Michigan. We should have just taken the tweet.
Yeah, you should have been watching the sweat and listened to you two dudes. So the SEC, though, guys, exciting day there for the third time in 6 years, though. Now we know the Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs, they're going to meet in the conference title game. Yep. That is confirmed. But this year's matchup, Jules, doesn't really look the same as it has in years past. Why do you think that is?
I can't believe it's only the third time in 6 years these two are playing in the SEC title game, because it seems like every year. This one does remind me, though, a little bit of the last SEC championship matchup, the 2021 team. That was a little different. Alabama had maybe fallen off a little bit more, although they still had Bryce Young and a lot more weapons, it seemed like. Whereas Georgia was felt to be untouchable at that point, and Alabama won that game outright as like a 6-point dog. I think this is setting up for a very good spot for Alabama as a dog again. Now, I know Georgia looked dominant yesterday. It was an Ole Miss game, a top 10 win that, that number was right around 10. They blew doors. They got Brock Bowers back. So there's a lot to like about Georgia. I just think Georgia, in the back of their minds, they're still going to know they can afford to slip up, maybe, even though they might not get in, whereas Alabama knows they have to win. I just like Alabama in that situation, particularly if we're getting points.
Is this Bama team, like, they opened the season with a loss to Texas, and since then, early on, a little bit of a roller coaster here, but this team has totally matured, and I know even Nick Saban's talked about the maturation process here and how much that's impressed him.
It really has, and Bama's really gotten, kind of been undervalued. You lose your opener and then you roll since then, but also look at the rankings versus the betting market. I think we all look at, rankings, they mean everything, but no, the betting market's more efficient. What's the betting market telling you? Alabama right now is the third best odds to win the national title, plus 650. They're technically ranked 8th. You look at who's ranked first, Ohio State, they're plus 800. So you actually have Alabama with better odds than Ohio State, even though Ohio State is technically the top-ranked team. I'll just mention it too, though. Georgia plus 240, like Julian said. I think this is a rallying cry for Kirby Smart. Kind of, he can play the fact that, we're not ranked number 1, no one believes in us, that sort of thing. They come from the best conference in college football. Plus 240 is a playable number for me on Georgia.
Yes or no, does Ohio State fall in the college football ranking?
No.
What do you think?
Stays the same. I
The
mean.
market tells us everything we need to know, though.
All right, we are all NFL the rest of the way, folks, including a healthy dose of high or low. Kyler is back. How much will he be using his legs? We'll talk about it next. Time to get after some NFL high or low here on the Sweat. 3 teams, gentlemen, are starting different quarterbacks for the 3rd straight week. The Cardinals, the Vikings, and the Giants, who are 17.5-point dogs with Tommy DeVito going up against the Cowboys. The dude still lives with his parents. I have no issues with that. People were crapping on him left and right yesterday. I'm like, the guy doesn't have to pay rent. Like, what's better than that? You would love to still live with your parents. Anywho, one of the worst teams in the league, like the worst scoring offense in the league, the Giants here, going up against one of the best defenses, one of the best teams in the league, and Dallas, double-digit dogs. I get it, man, but like, for crying out loud, this is a fat spread. Is it too high or too low, Josh?
I don't think it's too high, and I'll give you a quote here, Emerson. It's a no-brainer for DeVito living at home. He said, quote, "I don't have to worry about laundry, what I'm eating for dinner, chicken cutlets are all waiting for him when he gets home. So my mom still makes my bed. Everything's handled for me." So, again, shout out to
my wife had an issue with that, but I didn't.
I think it's cool. Yeah, it's fine.
I just need that.
Also, financially, very responsible, Emerson.
Yeah.
You get to bank your paychecks and just live at home. But I'm going to lay the points actually with the Dallas Cowboys. This game opener look at was only like -10. It kind of reopened like 15, 16. Now it's all the way up to 17 or 17.5. 72% of bets, 84% of dollars are laying the points here with Dallas. But I looked it up and I was curious. Over the last decade, how have these huge favorites done? If you're favored by 17 points or more, those teams are 14-11 against the spread, Emerson, 56%. Remember, in order to break even betting on sports, assuming -110 juice, it's 52.38% of the time. So these big favorites are actually tending to cover these numbers. Dallas, 4 of their 5 wins have been by 20 points or more. And you mentioned something really important, Emerson, the offensive kind of just massive mismatch here. Dallas is 3rd in the NFL, 28 points a game. New York Giants are dead last, 11 points per game. Also, you look at the non-conference angle, a little bit to an under here. I maybe look toward an under. If this is like a 37-7 game, something like that, I could see this going under.
I mean, Jules, Mike McCarthy's team, yes, they fell to the Eagles last weekend, but had played well at home. They're a perfect 3-0 ATS at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, when we see these massive spreads, we tend to ask ourselves, is it justified or not? And look at the 2 situations that these teams are in. I think this one is justified. The combination, though, of the total and the spread is kind of new. When we see a favorite this big, total under 40, that's a tough one. We don't see that often. And like the scenario Josh just said, what'd you say, 37-7?
Yeah, it actually would have gone over. So
okay. So
how about 30-7? How about that?
Right. So 30-7 goes under with the Cowboys going over their team total and the Giants going under their team total. When you can see scenarios of a game staying under and the winning team going over on their team total, we're in a pretty ugly scenario. So yeah, I would lean to the Cowboys laying it. I think this could get ugly. We saw 40-0 in New York with Daniel Jones earlier in the season. I would lay it. My only question is there a better look in the game? Would you play Giants team total under? I don't know. A garbage time score, you don't want to lose it that way. I would rather play Dallas team total over probably. You could look at a Pollard rushing prop. Sets up nicely, matches up, game script fits it. There's a lot of looks, but just to answer the question, I don't think it's enough points.
All right. Well, I'm all in on the C.J. Stroud story, even being a Jags guy. But the Bengals are starting to get hot, and it really is troubling to see. And Josh, you've referenced this already. Houston has 23 players on the injury report here. So it was 6.5, now down to 6. Talking the spread here. Is that too low for a banged-up Texans team heading to Cincinnati here, which they're also a little banged up, especially a wide receiver?
Yeah, it's probably close to where it should be right now, Emerson, but I think the opening number was a little bit too high, and the betting market kind of agreed with you on that one because this was a -8 at one point. It's all the way down to 6.5 or even 6. Also, it's notable to me that, when you woke up this morning, there were some hooks out there, 6.5s. They're pretty much all leaving you right now, Emerson. So that tells me that that with the hook now gone, there's further movement here toward Houston. And remember, Joe Burrow's down. T. Higgins, we talked about this to start the show. Irwin could be a guy that maybe gets some of those catches. But again, C.J. Stroud in this spot. When I'm on a dog, I want a dog that can score. Houston has been really putting up some points here recently. Stroud is putting up some great numbers. He's 4-1 ATS as a dog in this spot. So to me, this is a play where, early in the year, since he had their struggles, now that since he is back to being that public team, it's funny, Bengals always used to be terrible, and during the course of my life, now last few years, they've been a lot better, and public wants to ride them, yet the market's moving down. toward Houston. So that 6.5 to 6 is notable to me, Emerson. I think you take the points here with Houston.
Jules, this seems like a down spot for a young Texans team coming off that highly emotional win last week, too.
Yeah, that's the angle that I'm going to play here. They got that win last week, looked really good doing so. Now you got to go on the road to Cincy, a team that's really picking up steam. We can talk about the injured wide receivers for Cincy. You mentioned how many names are on the injury report for Houston. I think it's got to be a flat spot. You're going up against a team in the Bengals that the analysis I keep going to is that they need to make up ground from earlier in the season. So I do trust Joe Burrow ultimately in this spot. It's not a game I'm betting, not a game I'm going to lay the 6 in. If you're looking for a team to pair with the Ravens in that money line parlay or a teaser if this went back up, maybe I would go Cincy, although I don't like backing them with all the injuries. But yeah, I do think the Bengals ultimately get this one done.
Emerson, real quick too.
What's up,
this
man?
might get down to 5.5. If you like the Houston Texans in this spot, I think you grab the 6 now.
Well, the only total on today's slate that is higher than what we see with Texans Bengals currently, which is 47, is 48.5 here with the Lions and the Chargers. So is this too high for a total in this one, Jules? Despite LA having a bad defense and also a solid offense, I believe all of its last 6 games have hit the under.
Yeah, and that's a little concerning. It's obviously been an under season in the NFL overall. This is the one game that kind of stands out with some more points on the board, and I do think we get the points. Chargers have the worst passing defense in terms of yards allowed per game in the NFL, so Detroit should be able to get some chunks there. We know that the Chargers, not a great look, obviously, on the road against the Jets, who have a solid defense, but you're back at home. You're against a below-average Detroit pass defense. I think we're going to see some air yards in this game, and I think that we ultimately see it creep over. So a lot of these games we've been seeing go under, takes 2 to tango. It depends who they're playing. If you're playing the Jets, that's going to muck the whole game up. I think putting these two offenses and defenses together out there in a stadium, like the Chargers, I think that this is a game that we should see some points.
You expect this game to slightly miss the over, Josh?
So I just think it's tough if you're playing these overs. I mean, just you're going up against such a tidal wave of under, situations this year. Unders have been fantastic, 62%.
Yeah.
Non-conference unders are 31 and 17, 65%. However, the line did tick up a little bit. Some of these books were 48. You're up to some shops 48.5. I think if you want to play this over, maybe you tease it down a little bit just to protect yourself from this great under trend this year. Currently 63% bets, 72% money's on the over. So again, it did tick up a little. You're in a dome. Chargers don't have a very good pass defense, as Julian mentioned. But I'm going to focus on the side here, Emerson. I really like the Detroit Lions in this spot. They had a dog to fave line move. They open at some shops getting, a point. They've now flipped all the way to -3. I don't want to push a -3, if the Detroit Lions win by 3, because 3 is your most common margin of victory, most common key number. So this is a money line play for me. Give me Lions -155. Huge rest first tired advantage in favor of the Lions, Emerson. They're coming off a bye versus the Chargers, who on a short week had to go cross-country after a Monday night game. If you look at road favorites off a bye, they're 64 and 37 against the spread, 63% the last 20 years. And Dan Campbell, wash, rinse, repeat. He keeps covering numbers, Emerson. 6-2 ATS this year, 29 and 13 ATS in his career, 69%. But again, wary of the key number, give me the money line with the Lions.
So then, Jules, what do you want to do with this Saints-Vikings total of 41? Because the Saints have scored 24 or more points in, 4 of the last 5 games. They've averaged 27 in that span. The Vikings haven't scored less than 19 since week 1.
Yeah, you can talk yourself into these overs at low numbers if you want to spin it that way. But like Josh said, they ultimately aren't getting there. So again, I think this is one of the hardest games of the day to bet because of we just don't know what we're going to get from Minnesota. Are they going to ride that momentum, or are they going to fall flat after that performance that they had last weekend and now trying to put things together in team defense in the Saints? That's a pretty good defense, being prepared for it. I don't know. So I really don't have a good feel on this game. I lean to the Saints as the side, and
okay.
I'll just leave it there because I don't want to bet this game with your money.
All right, Josh, want to ask you about Kyler Murray here too, because again, Arizona, one of the 3 teams starting a different quarterback for 3rd straight week. This is a season debut. Yesterday when we talked about his rushing prop, it was like 26.5, now down to 23.5. Is that too high or too low?
So it's probably where it should be at this point, Emerson.
Right.
But if you look from yesterday to today, again, this is just a very rudimentary way to look at the way the market is moving. Look at the DraftKings Sportsbook, go to some of these player props. If there's one you're interested in, write it down, give it 24 hours. Did it go up or down? That'll give you indication where it's leaning. So it tells me, again, you had some money hit that under 26.5. I would look toward the Cardinals in this one, though, Emerson. They're only getting 36% of bets. They were getting 2.5. A lot of these books are down to 2. You could tease them up here, but just notable to me, the Falcons' home road. They're decent at home, not very good on the road. Maybe you tease up the Cardinals, but I kind of like the Cards as a side there.
Yeah, Falcon. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, you want to be, I agree with the move on Murray. You probably want to be a little careful betting a rushing prop on a quarterback in his first game back from an ACL tear.
For sure, good advice. And Falcons, by the way, 1-2 ATS on the road. And I'm just supporting you, dude.
You could provide that type of advice, though.
Yeah.
That's rather elementary.
Very, very easy. Very easy. Yeah, is Kyler Murray a price check option? I don't know. We'll discuss next when we help you build those money-making lineups. Deebo Samuel's back, too. All right, well, Josh just broke the news to us seconds ago that he's going to be ordering quesadillas for the team as we watch the Patriots game
for the team.
After the show. Love a good warm quesadilla at 10:15 in the morning. That is going to be delectable. But so he's out doing the Lord's work, but so was Jeff Ulrich.
I think he's going to be just wandering around in the cold looking for somewhere that's going to sell him quesadillas at 8:45 in the morning.
Listen, you and Jeff Ulrich as well. You guys are going to put your capes on. You're going to help the people watching us here on DraftKings Network and VSiN price check some salaries on DK today as everyone out there is preparing, getting ready to build what they hope is a money-making lineup. Some big fat contests available on DraftKings right now. So let's start at the top here, Ulrich. Your quarterback du jour. Who catches your eye?
I'm so glad to hear there's hard work being done early on Sunday over at the DraftKings studio, as per usual. Look, we talk about food. We need little condiments to go with these quesadillas. I'm not saying you should use mayonnaise with quesadillas. That's gross. But Will Levis at 5,300 is a condiment you should be using in your DraftKings lineup this week. Yeah, Levis has looked real good over his first two games, in my opinion, at least. 262 yards against the Steelers. They were down his throat in that game. I mean, the O-line crumbled, but Levis stayed strong, kept them in, gave them a chance to win. This week, faces Tampa. Both corners banged up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They do not have the same kind of pressure rate. They don't get the pressure on the quarterback that Pittsburgh does. Levis in his first game against a low-pressure defense, we know how that went. 4 touchdowns. I think this is a really good spot for him to bounce back as well. I think it's a spot for the Titans. We know that Tampa Bay's secondary, their pass coverage is terrible. So I think at 5,300, I'm not going to go into last week. 5,300, Will Levis, a cheap quarterback. You can pair him with DeAndre Hopkins, who is actually not that expensive either. This is a great stack to start out with for Week 10 for me.
I don't hate that after seeing what C.J. Stroud did to the Bucs last week, Jules, and we're going to have
It's not broke, don't fix it.
Amen, sister. Steve Buchanan actually likes, I believe, over 1.5 touchdowns for Will Levis, which we'll pick his brain coming up in this show. Who do you like at quarterback this week?
Yeah, I mean, put us all on the Levis train. He was one of the guys I was considering here, but ultimately I did go with Jared Goff. Ooh. At 6,400, I feel like, we just talked about the game. It's the highest total on the board. It feels like one of the only games that we can really see back and forth offense in really good conditions for it. It's got a tight spread, so we would think that the Lions will have to kind of keep going in this one. So at 6,400, going up against a team that's allowed the second most DraftKings points per game to the position this season, the most passing yards to opponents in that Chargers defense. This feels like a good spot to get a guy in Goff that's, what is he, the fifth? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth
there you go.
Most expensive quarterback. I just counted to 6 on the slate.
Yes, you did. All right, great stuff.
That's it.
Count how far down your running back is then.
That's going to take a little bit, but
okay,
it's going to be Bijan Robinson at 6,000.
What? Are we sure he's going to play a lot and get some red zone touches?
No, but that's why I'm going to play. That's why we like him, because we're not sure. And so people will shy away from him. Like $6,000 for this dude and what he can do is a bargain. And we're going up against an Arizona defense that ranks 30th in DraftKings points allowed to the running back position. Will he play? I don't know. I hope so. Arthur Smith is being a bozo here, fighting back about how he's I don't want to. Just use your most talented weapon on offense that you used a top 10 pick on a running back in 2023. But I can't make him do that. I just have a feeling that eventually the decision has to be made to, optimize what you have here in one of the best weapons in the NFL with the ball in his hands. So it's a great matchup. If there's a spot where you can break a few early and show, hey, I deserve these touches, this is it. So this is a tournament play, obviously, but I think there's a lot of high upside here for Bijan Robinson.
There is not a man out there, Jeff Ulrich, more hated by the fantasy football community than Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. Who's your running back today?
I like where Jules' head is at, buying low on a great talent. It's probably not going to change what Arthur Smith does going forward, but if you're going to buy
probably not
to some crazy situation like this, you want to do it at an all-time low. This is the lowest salary for Bijan Robinson this week. I'm going to go with the guy who is going to get touches this week. He may not survive the game because he's a walking injury as well, but Aaron Jones at 6,500. He had close to 30 touches last week. He is the Packers' best offensive player. He also took 6 out of a possible 8 red zone touches. And you look at the matchup and you say, it's Pittsburgh. Is this really that good? I mean, Derrick Henry scored last week. They've actually allowed 4 touchdowns to running backs over the last 3 games. And I just look at Aaron Jones, and again, like, I think people just kind of overlook it because this Packers offense has been so pathetic. But when he's been on the field, he gets the ball. I mean, not only does he get the ball, but he's still explosive. So you've got a running back here who we don't have to worry about volume with. He's maybe not in the worst matchup in the world because the Packers are going to be running the ball here and using short screens with Aaron Jones to neutralize that Steelers pass rush. So I think Aaron Jones at 6,500 is actually a very sneaky play especially for tournaments. Not many people are going to be thinking about him this week. The Packers are underdogs, but the Packers stay close in this game. It's probably because Aaron Jones had a big day. So,
any sneaky plays at wide receiver you like this week, Jeff?
I mean, wide receiver is just a huge sneak fest, but okay. I'm going to go chalk here instead. Julian talked about the Chargers-Lions games. Okay. I agree. You have to get a piece of this game. I like going to Keenan Allen this week. I like just paying up here. You look at this Lions defense. They've improved. They've drafted a couple of rookie cornerbacks, obviously. They're playing pretty well. At the core, though, the Lions are still what we just call a funnel to the pass kind of defense. They're very good at stopping the run. And what they're not great against is just guarding against these veteran type of great route running receivers. Adam Thielen put up a massive game on them. And I think Keenan Allen is in a spot where you're down your top two wide receivers. You're going up against the defense. You're not going to be able to run the ball. This is let's just take what's obvious here. Keenan Allen's probably going to catch like 10 balls in this situation. You look at the structure too. I mean, Jefferson's out. CeeDee Lamb, is he really going to get much volume against the Giants? You could go to the other side with Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I feel like Detroit, now that they're healthy, have more options. I think Keenan Allen's in for a big day. I kind of like the Chargers here to keep this really close too, which I think would really help him out. So I like going all the way up to Keenan Allen. I think his price in some ways will keep his ownership a little lower this week too.
Yeah, maybe Chase will be soaking up most of that ownership in that price range. Who do you like at wide receiver?
Jeff and I are mirroring each other in this segment very well while being different. We both go risky at running back. He took a wide receiver from my quarterback's game. I'm taking a wide receiver from his quarterback's game. DeAndre Hopkins, he mentioned stacking with Levis. He's cheap, $6K. It's a good matchup against Tampa. We obviously saw him go off in Levis's debut. It was only 4 catches on 6 targets, but 128 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not quite there on the short week at Pittsburgh, but that's a tough spot. You're making your second start. It's on the road. It's at the Steelers. It's a short week. Now you have a long week to prepare for a Buccaneers defense that Jeff already mentioned how bad they are and then the injuries to go with it. So what's a guy like Will Levis, who's still young in his third start, going to do? You're going to rely on a guy like Hopkins when you get into certain situations. So I think it's a great spot for Hopkins, and Jeff already pretty much laid out the rest.
Okay, your tight end today, little Dalton Schultz action?
Yeah, so generally, and I know we talk about it all the time on the show, Jeff's going to go down the board and punt on somebody probably, and I'm on that team 90% of the time.
New season high in salary for him.
I'm going to pay it because this dude just keeps being a massive part of this Texans offense, and he's got a reliable quarterback now in C.J. Stroud. Double-digit targets in 2 of his last 4. Last week he catches 10 of 11 for $130 and a touchdown. He's scored a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games. Oh, and look, he's going against the team that's allowed the most DraftKings fantasy points to the tight end position. I think there's, if we're talking Levis, Hopkins, these good running backs in the 6K range, if there's a week we can afford 4,900 at tight end, it's this. So give me a guy that I feel like I can count on now at tight end.
Jeff, which tight end will beat his price tag? One that's potentially in a smash spot on DK, dude.
I mean, again, we could go high here again. I like the Schultz call. I like Sam Laporta as well from that game we've talked about already. But again, like if we're going 3K, let's just stick with our Titans theme here. Chig Okonkwo is 3K. I mean, he's really cheap. And you look at him, he hasn't had the greatest season. He hasn't scored a touchdown in like a million years here, but the targeting is there. The targeting was there last week. And the one reason why I like going down this depth chart for Tennessee this week, Treylon Burks is out. We've already talked about the matchup already. I mean, again, Tampa Bay, what did they just allow to Dalton Schultz last week? Chig Okonkwo, though, is a player who just can do a lot with a little. I mean, he can go for those 40-yard touchdowns, right? So I think at 3K, it's not what I'd call a deep week at tight end. It rarely is, but this week it just feels even worse. I think there's some good pay-up options, but if you're going cheap, I would just stick with this Tennessee game. I think when you look at the trend with targeting, when you look at just the matchup, and then obviously Burks being out, Okonkwo, this just feels like the week where he finally does something, really starts to matter for DFS. So 3K again, need a cheap option. I would go to Chig Okonkwo.
All right, good stuff, Jeff. We're going to miss you during Case of DFS after the show, my friend. But, you and Jules hopefully helped everyone watching right now make $1 million lineup today.
That'd be great.
If you want to know where else you can compete for $1 million with a Thanksgiving Day contest on Rainmakers, that's where a new holiday set dropping tomorrow. Head over to the DraftKings Marketplace, people. Collect a full lineup of holiday cards and enter the biggest contest of the year on Rainmakers. Again, the drop is tomorrow, so don't miss on another chance for $1 million. We'll be back next to break down the rest of today's slate as the pregame power-up continues.
Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Second hour of the sweat is underway, everybody. Second hour of the pregame power-up kicking off here on DraftKings Network and VSiN, the Lombardi line from 10 to noon. Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff for the final hour of this 5-hour block we bring you every Sunday during NFL season. Again, here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. So let's get back to the rest of today's slate here, guys, and grab some bets from you. And let's start with the Steel City Showdown, where I feel like Pittsburgh's defense is just going to be licking its chops, staring at this limited Packers offense, which includes Jordan Love at quarterback, who is still fighting through it and still trying to figure things out, Jules.
I agree with you. So I should probably...
hey, sir. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to take my money and go throw it back onto Packers +3 now because Emerson likes the same side as me here. I like Pittsburgh -3. You're getting a juice -3, but I think it's a good spot. You got Pittsburgh coming off the long week. They beat Levis and that Titans team on Thursday night. They've stayed at home. They haven't played on the road since October 22nd. Pittsburgh's at home, long week. Prepping for Jordan Love in this Packers offense that has not been very good. Yeah, Packers snap a 4-game losing streak and get a home win over the Rams, but when Stafford is taken out of that operation for the Rams, there's just nothing there. They scored 3 points. The bar is very low there for what Green Bay had to do at home last week to get that win. So now you're going on the road to Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be much more difficult. You don't need much from Pittsburgh on offense to win this one. I'll lay the 3 here.
Okay, Pittsburgh's going to have the rest advantage here as well. And under Mike Tomlin, you're going to love this, Mr. Stats.
Well, he's not a dog today. What do you got for me?
Okay, the Steelers have covered in 55.8% of their games when they have the rest advantage under Mike Tomlin.
Ooh, I like that. Can we combine
dog
and rest?
What do you mean? You can't argue with the numbers.
Okay,
go ahead, Josh.
Edge.
Go ahead.
Okay, so currently you're getting 78% of bets, 80% of money on the Steelers, so they are very popular play today. We have seen this kind of dance between 3, 3.5, where it opened -3, it's ticked up to 3.5, it's come a little bit down to 3. That tells me that, again, the Packers, as gross as they've been all year, they're only 1-3 on the road. You know, Love, is he the guy or not? I think the jury's out on that one.
God,
but anytime there's a 3.5,
right now.
Yeah, only 20% of bets, Emerson. Little buyback there. So I'm with Julian. I think if you play the Steelers, maybe you go money line in this one just to protect yourself from a little respect on the buyback with the Packers. But I'm going to go with the under in this one, Emerson. I really like this angle. I think you set it up perfectly. These are teams that don't score a lot. They play pretty good defense, and you got a lot of good under trends on this one. This total, believe it or not, actually ticked up a little bit. It was like 37.5 at one point, got up to 39, but it looks like 39 is your high water mark because you're starting to see a lot of that 39 under get hit, dropping it down to 38.5. But you love these angles here with the under. I mean, unders in general, you mentioned it, 62% overall. Non-conference unders are 65%. And those low total unders, the ones that are less than 40, you feel like, hey, it's so low, it's got to go over. No, they're 15-9 to the under this year. And to put the cherry on top here, Emerson, these are two of the slowest paced teams in the NFL in terms of plays per game. So they run it a lot. They chew up the clock. Steelers are 28th. Packers are 26th. So slow. Line's starting to come back down, a lot of under trends. Give me under, ideally 39 if you can still get it.
Okay, so low total there. We talked about the Lions-Chargers total a couple blocks ago here, but any other bets in this game stand out to you, Julian?
Not really. I mean, I'm trying to get into the player prop market because we just talked about it in DFS. We talked about how it has the highest total, so you're probably going to want to get a piece somewhere potentially. I just don't. The props are obviously juiced up too to go with the number, to go with it potentially being the best offensive game of the day. So, like, Jahmyr Gibbs is low given what he's done recently, but is he going to get the workload here with Montgomery back? Because Montgomery was the dude beforehand. So I'm going to sit back. I'll say this is a good game to, something I don't think we talk about enough is that you can just get in on player props live during any game. I think this could be a game to potentially do that.
All right, Lions had that bye week, too, to prepare for this West Coast trip here, Josh. In Detroit, 3-1 straight up on the road this season.
Yes, this is a money line play for me. You mentioned this earlier, but you have the rest advantage. You have this angle of favorites off a bye, almost 65% the last couple decades here. You also have the spot where Dan Campbell covers numbers. My one thing is that, if you're laying the 3, you're getting the worst of it at this point. Now, I know you can make the case you're getting the worst of the money line as well, but, you lay a 3, you push. You lay a money line and you win your bet still. So I know there's kind of a buyback at Chargers +3. The Lions scare me a little bit. They're getting around 65% of bets, but I'll still bank on the rest advantage off a bye, Lions on the money line. But I'm just looking real quick, Emerson, with the bye, extra time off, I'm on Ross St. Brown. It's chalky, it's obvious, but 84.5 receiving yards. The over is -130 at DraftKings, so you're having to pay a higher price for a reason. We mention all the time the Chargers have the worst pass defense in the NFL, and I'm on Ross St. Brown. He's gone 100 yards or more in, 6 of his last 7 games. With a little bit extra rest, high total game, I think St. Brown could be a play today.
Is this Dallas Giants game one to target potentially the under with how bad the Giants offense is, Jules?
Potentially, but like we talked about earlier in the show, so it was 40-0 Cowboys last time. That's an over in this game if we get a repeat performance. I don't know. I'm pretty torn on the best way to play this game. It might ultimately just be laying the points, which obviously you would have wanted at 16.5 rather than 17.5. I think this is a Cowboys team total over. They tend to roll at home, and games are going under, and the Giants are not going to score enough. I think we can safely say whether they go over or under their team total, they're not going to score enough to push the Cowboys to need to score late points in this game. But I just think this one, the floodgates could open early. So or maybe you look first half Cowboys team total. I think there's a lot of looks in this game. I don't know which is necessarily the right one. It's probably not a game I'm ultimately going to bet. But Cowboys points feels like they should come on the board early.
Josh, we talked about this huge spread earlier, but what's the best way to play this game overall?
So don't hate laying the points here. Again, sounds crazy laying such a massive number in the NFL. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, obviously. But we mentioned that angle earlier. When you're laying 17 or more, these teams are 56% against the spread the last decade or so. But also, I think you're looking at maybe an underplay. I know this is like contradicting correlative betting stuff in terms of a big dog. But again, I don't think you're going to get much out of on the offensive side from the Giants here. The one thing you're worried about is DeVito, pick six or fumble, return for a touchdown, that sort of thing. You can't be giving up points offensively based upon mistakes. But I would mention one prop bet, Emerson, Saquon Barkley. I think if you're, let's just say the Dallas Cowboys are up big in this game. They're up, 24-3, and it's kind of, garbage time, late fourth quarter. Does, DeVito just say, hey, things aren't working for me, let's just dump it off to Saquon, little screens, little bootleg passes, stuff like that. Right now, Saquon Barkley is 20.5 receiving yards over -120. Can he get you 21 receiving yards, Emerson? I think it's doable. He's gone over this number in 2 of his last 3 games.
All right, well, you got the Commanders playing consecutive road games after beating your Patriots last time out. Seahawks just got embarrassed by the Ravens, but they're back home here. Are you giving the Commanders a chance to hang around in this one, Jules?
I lean Seattle. I keep talking about what's potentially a good piece to put. The Ravens are my strong parlay or teaser piece of the day. What's a good piece to put with them? We talked about the Bengals potentially. I think Seattle potentially could be a piece to put there. It's a tough spot. You mentioned it, a second straight road game for Washington. You're going out west, and you're going against a Seattle team that has played some really tough road matchups recently. Now they're returning home. This is a get-right spot, I would think, for them. So lean to Seattle.
All right, Commanders go from Washington City to State, Josh.
Wow.
Do they keep playing well?
Mr. Geography
back pocket the whole time.
Dude, I've got nothing but fun facts today, man.
Love it.
Don't forget the DeVito fact that he lives with his mom and dad.
His dad is Danny DeVito.
No, that's not true.
Oh, all right.
I'd worry a little bit in terms so the betting market shows me there is that liability a little bit here on the Washington Commanders. Seattle's getting 68% of bets. This was -6.5. Seattle, it's down to 6. I see a couple shops that are juiced on, actually, believe it or not, the Commanders side, +6, -115. So line is breaking a little bit toward Washington. My one concern, though, Emerson, is a favorite off a bye. If you look at these angles where you lose by 20 points or more, you come back the next week, they're actually covering at, I believe, a 58% clip. So just from the standpoint of what Julian mentioned, Seattle getting blown out, coming back, laying points, the angle there would say, hey, bet Seattle here to get right at home, win by a touchdown or more. But then the betting market is moving a little bit toward Washington. So I think it's a tough game to cap. I would look toward Jahan Dotson, though, Emerson. Over 44.5 receiving yards. It's -115. He showed me a lot in that Patriots game last week. He gets open. He's a deep threat. He's getting a ton of targets. His last 3 games, he's had 8 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets again. So Sam Howell is looking toward Jahan Dotson. He's very quick. He can make some plays today, especially if you're down, get garbage yards late in the second half. I'd go over 44.5 Dotson receiving.
Atlanta's change at quarterback did not produce a victory last week against the Vikings, Julian, but Taylor Heineke will remain the starter. They're at the Cardinals. We've mentioned Kyler Murray's return already, and what you would do with his rushing yards prop. Is there a bet that catches your eye on the DK Sportsbook in this game?
This is another tough game. I keep saying that about these games, and what do you keep mentioning on the show? We have 3 teams going with a different quarterback for the third straight week. That's making things difficult. Kyler Murray, what do we expect in the return from the ACL? And frankly, why is Arizona doing this if they are in position to get the number 1 overall pick?
I think they're trying to see at least what else they have in him before they decide.
I knew you were going to say that.
Before they decide to go quarterback.
And my answer is they should already know what they have in him. They've seen plenty of him. So if you want to know what he is coming back from the ACL, you can probably tell in practice what he is. So what is the motivation in this game? I lean to Atlanta. I think Atlanta's a pretty solid overall team, and we're getting a shorter number because Kyler's back, but we have no idea what we're going to get from Kyler. I would lean Atlanta, but again, this isn't a game I want to bet.
I mean, Geno Smith crapped his pants last week, Josh. Maybe he doesn't do it this week.
Yeah, I actually like the points here with Kyler Murray. This is 2 plus 2.5 down to 2. You can tease them up to 8. I think it's a great angle here. Falcons just home road. They're completely different teams. They play well at home. They don't play great on the road. Right now, the Cardinals are only getting 36% of bets here. They'd also match. Remember, they lost 27-0. That stat there, team off a blowout, dog off a blowout, 64% ATS. Also, Kyler Murray as a dog. I know he plays a lot of video games, Emerson, but he covers numbers as a dog. He's 20-11 against the spread, 65%.
All right, as you guys have noticed.
That, though, is that season where they were sneaky good.
Well, maybe.
Steve wasn't available. Hey, listen, be quiet. Steve wasn't available this weekend. Everyone's noticed that, but we couldn't let the show go by without getting his best bets ahead of this NFL slate. So we sat down with him on Friday. We'll show that conversation to you next. be a complete weekend here on The Sweat without sunny Steve Buchanan dishing out some of his.
Oh.
Yeah, producer Drew came up with that.
Okay.
Not me.
I can roll with that, actually.
Yes, I also can
Fits me
roll
well.
with that. So you're here to dish out some of your best NFL bets. We can't thank you enough for being here, my friend. We know that you absolutely love the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
Favorite
you?
team.
And Mac Jones, so they're getting ready to kick off here in Germany against the Colts. These two teams, what kind of shot are you going to give New England here to actually knock off the Colts and pick up their third win of the season?
0. And for me to land on this bet, we have to travel back in time just a wee bit.
Okay, let's do it.
We have to go back to last week. This was supposed to be like the coming out party for Mac Jones. Everything aligned for Mac Jones in that game. The Commanders' defensive line is no more. They traded away Montez Sweat. They traded away Chase Young. So now this was supposed to be the spot where, you know what, this is where Mac Jones finally starts to look like, rookie year Mac Jones. Despite not having both of their top edge rushers, Mac Jones was only under pressure on 10 of his 46 dropbacks. What did he do in those scenarios? He still only averaged 5 yards per pass attempt in that game and threw for 220 yards. If you can't have a good, solid game against the Washington Commanders, who have no pressure on the quarterback, who have no secondary, who are you going to succeed against? The Colts? No, that ain't happening there either. The secondary for Washington is absolutely abysmal. So is the Colts, but they're going to give Mac Jones more pressure and more trouble in this game than they are. Gardner Minshew on the other side is not going to face a lot of pressure in that one there. Averaging 7 yards per pass attempt when there is no pressure, 71% completion rate. The Colts are going to win this game. If the Patriots showed me something last week, maybe, just maybe, I'd be on their side. They showed me nothing. Give me the Colts to once again take down the abysmal Patriots, who, by the way, I told you all, take under 5.5 wins at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I hope you listened.
Sir?
I hope you listened.
Thank you. I mean, we're both old enough to remember when the Colts and Patriots used to define the AFC Championship hunt. That is no longer the case. As for the team that just beat the Patriots last week, Washington, the Commanders here, traveling across the country to face the Seahawks, who were just blown out by the Ravens. But you're still siding with Riverboat Ron. Why is that?
Yeah, I do like the Commanders here at 6 or 6.5, whichever number you're getting here. I mean, Washington has actually been one of the best underdog teams against the spread so far this season. They're 4-1-1 coming into this week. Now they're going up against the Seahawks, but they're also a perfect 4-0 as a road underdog this season. Nobody is throwing more in the NFL right now than the Washington Commanders. They're doing so 68% of the time. Sam Howell is actually second in passing yards coming into this week, first in pass attempts against this Seattle secondary. This was really like one of their strong points last year. It really hasn't been as strong as we've seen like last year. So I actually really like the Commanders in this spot here. I think they can keep this game close. I think we really saw like that you can expose Geno Smith getting some pressure on him. We saw that so much there in that game against the Ravens where they really just got blown out of that game. But I like Washington to keep this game close. So give me the points there with Washington.
All right, we talked about it yesterday. Lamar Jackson absolutely loves this Ravens defense here. Says that group doesn't have any weaknesses.
That's
and then
true.
you have Deshaun Watson. He returned to help the Browns put up 27 against the Cardinals last week here, Steve. So who wins? And what kind of hope do the Browns have with this rejuvenated Watson now, like under center?
This game's really tough to pick a side, quite honestly. I think like these teams are pretty evenly matched, especially when it comes defensively. Like you just mentioned it there, Baltimore's defense has been phenomenal so far this season. Like we talk about some of the good defenses in the league. We talk about Cleveland. We talk about San Francisco. The Ravens should be in that conversation. I'm going to take the under in this game. I know it's a really low total here. We're talking about 38 points or so, but neither team is really going to find much success when throwing the ball because we have two really, really good secondaries and two teams that can get a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. What these teams like to do is they like to run the ball a ton. The Ravens lead the league now in rush attempts. They are rushing the ball 52% of the time. That leads the league. The Browns are right behind them. They're rushing the ball 49% of the time. So if we're going to get that type of game, then this is just going to be a really slow-paced game, which is kind of ironic, actually, because Cleveland right now actually runs the most plays out of all of the teams in the NFL. But like I mentioned here, the Ravens have been so good defensively that I really think they're going to be able to slow this game now. Now, you talk about what these teams have allowed to their opposition. The Ravens are allowing an average of 14 points per game. That is the lowest in the league. Cleveland is right in that realm as well, 17.4 points per game to the opposition. This just has a classic under written all over it here. We'll talk about a prop I like in this game to kind of go with that narrative here, but I just do not see a lot of points scored in this game. It's a low total that we mentioned here at 38 points, but I think this game's still going under. If this was like a 17-13 game, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
I mean, these two defenses just were destructive. They were dominant last week against overmatched, like, NFC West foes. So you kind of tease there a prop in this game that you do like. So if you do believe it's going under, you're probably going to avoid any props with, like, Lamar and Deshaun Watson, right? So what is one you do like?
So I like Jerome Ford to go over 11.5 carries against the Ravens here. He's gone over that number in 4 of the 8 games that he's played. Now, the backfield has really kind of settled in. There's been a lot of, like, questions of what was going to happen here once Nick Chubb went down. You know, Pierre Strong was kind of in the mix. They brought in Kareem Hunt. Well, it kind of looks like we kind of have some answers here at this point now. Pierre Strong was really not a factor in that game last week. He kind of got phased out of the offense here now that Kareem Hunt is kind of back up on that level. So really it's just Ford and Hunt at this point. But the thing that's interesting here is that we really haven't seen Deshaun Watson run the ball. That usually was going to take away some of the potential carries from Ford and Kareem Hunt. But Watson is only averaging about 3 carries per game. Like, he's just simply not running the ball, and really, obviously, without a strong offensive line in front of him, not getting a lot of pressure on him either. So now we have a game, which, like I mentioned, we're going to struggle to go through the air. Ford at only 11.5 carries. This feels like just a really low total here. He absolutely blew past that number last week. I think he had 20 carries
he had 20
on the
for
week
44 yards.
Yeah, so if we're thinking that they're going to run the ball a lot, Jerome Ford to basically have just over double-digit carries feels like a pretty easy play here. So give me Ford to go over 11.5 carries, even with Kareem Hunt in the mix.
So that's AFC, but the AFC has done well against the NFC this year. So the AFC 26-19-4 ATS against the NFC. So early forecasts here, producer Drew wants you to know this. Early forecasts here are showing 9 miles per hour. We're talking winds in Tampa.
No way.
Titans and Bucks. So maybe a windy under system. You'll avoid paying any attention to that. So would you want to go over here?
I mean, I gotta probably call.
I have weather sources, pal.
Well, not only that, I might call Josh and see what he says about the wind, because that's the guy, right? To go with the windy overs and unders.
Windy system.
Josh Applebaum, where are you, you coward? I don't care about that. Give me the over in this game, right? I don't care about 9-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, we got one of the best teams at hitting the over going up against one of the worst teams hitting the over. India 6-3. Tennessee is 6-3 going to the over. Tampa Bay 2-6. I mean, I think Will Levis gives the Titans the best chance to win now that he's under center here. Last week he didn't have a great game, but that was against the Steelers. I would expect him to not have a great game. He was under pressure on 53% of his dropbacks, but with a clean pocket, which is what he's going to have a lot of in this game against Tampa. He has a 69% completion rate, 9.3 yards per pass attempt with 3 of his 4 passing touchdowns. Tampa Bay, like I mentioned here, doesn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but this is just such a great spot for DeAndre Hopkins. Kyle Phillips was in the mix here, or Treylon Burks, depending on the health heading into this game here. But I just think this is a really low total here for a Tennessee Titans team that really is kind of having a rejuvenation in offense.
Yeah, for sure. And this past week, Will Levis named the starter for the rest of the season. You know, he's going to be broad-eyed with that big arm. He's going to be trying to exploit this Buccaneers reeling pass defense here.
Yeah.
That's going to really be trying to pick up the slack and the pieces after being torched by C.J. Stroud last week. So you are targeting Will Levis in the props department.
Yeah, without a doubt here, too. And I think that you can take him to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You're getting that at, like, plus money here, big plus money at plus 170. I think this is just a really solid spot for him, like you just said here, to expose against that secondary, that poor secondary of Tampa going into this game here. We saw the connection he has already with DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's just really hitting his receivers well. It's just such a stark difference from when they had Ryan Tannehill there. We're actually seeing DeAndre Hopkins look like the guy of old with Will Levis under center here. So over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I know it's a very small sample, but Levis certainly has the capabilities of doing that, especially in this matchup against Tampa.
And in terms of other props you are eyeing on this slate, you are looking at a tight end, one who is sneaky good and on a historic pace right now through 9 games.
This is a huge Sam Laporta week. I really think so for the Lions here. The Lions have a ton of success of throwing over the middle of the field. And between the numbers here, under 10 yards, Laporta has 24 receptions on 28 targets, 201 yards. The Chargers are getting absolutely roasted by opposing tight ends, averaging 69 yards per game and a 79% reception rate. Laporta is averaging over 7 targets per game, 55 receiving yards. When we got a close game here, close spread, about 3, should be a lot of back and forth, neutral game strip. This should be a massive spot for Sam Laporta. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he is the highest scoring tight end on this slate overall. Okay. And I think you just have to go really hard on his overs today.
If he maintains this pace right now, he's going to overtake Keith Jackson for the second best rookie tight end season in NFL history. Steve, it was great to see you. Thanks for your guidance and wisdom here coming up. We are under the bright lights here, people, dishing out some prime time picks. Will Russ cook against the reeling Bills? No, we're going to discuss after the break. Okay, it is time now to dive into the remaining 2 games of the Week 10 slate that we have yet to touch on here, gentlemen. Prime time picks. And tonight, on paper, it doesn't exactly get your juices flowing. We're talking about, tell me about it. Talking about the Jets at the Raiders. And guess what? Everyone on social media, and I share this feeling, people are like, why the hell wasn't this game flexed out of Sunday Night Football? Why isn't it the Jags and 49ers on Sunday Night Football? Everyone venting about that. America getting the Jets in primetime for the second straight week? No, thank you. So the rules require any changes basically to be made no later than 12 days prior to kickoff. That change, unfortunately, was not made. We know the Jets are coming off this terrible offensive performance on Monday night against the Chargers. They're going to head out west to play this Raiders team, Josh, that appeared to get a bump after the firing of Josh McDaniels. So a game bet in this that you like, what is it?
So I'm going to take the under in this one, Emerson. You know, it opened around 37. It's down to 36.5. Again, one of these low totals that feels like it has to go over, but I'll give you these trends once again. The low totals that are less than 40 are 15-9 to the under. Zach Wilson is 17-12 to the under in his career, 59%. When the total falls at least half point, it's 64% to the under. But the granddaddy of them all, Emerson, prime time unders, baby. 23-7, 77% overall. So also at the under, also, you know, is this kind of a buy low, sell high play in favor of the Jets at this point? Because early in the week, it looked like Vegas was taking a ton of respected money. It opened as high as Jets -3. It got down to a pick 'em. I saw a couple of shops even went to at home Vegas -1. But there has been an adjustment last 24 hours. Lines back up to Jets -1. Jets are now only getting 40% of bets. The public is on the Raiders here. We all saw how happy they were when McDaniels was gone. They're smoking cigars. They feel liberated there in the locker room with Mark Davis. But to me, the angle here, again, is to take the under. It's just a very tight game. You know, could be very close. It's hard to go one way or the other. I'll just mention, too, Aiden O'Connell, Emerson, under 207.5 passing yards. Okay. It's really juiced up under -140. Slow pace of play, low total game. Also, the Jets are only giving up 175 yards per game. That's third best in the NFL.
I think pick 'em here, but Jets 3-1 ATS at home this season. Or the Raiders 3-1 ATS at home this season.
Good job.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm with Josh on my favorite play in this game. It's the under in the game. Okay. He laid out a lot of the reasons, but these two teams specifically being put in this spot, this is just going to be a tough game to see points. And we have the Jets that defended the pass pretty well, going up against a young quarterback that Josh just said he likes the under on the passing yards. So both teams, the advantage here, neither run defense is good. So both teams should run the ball, grind some clock, get rid of the air yards. The primetime unders have been absolutely crushing in a season where unders in general are crushing. This is a letdown spot for the Raiders. Not that they'll necessarily lose the game, but just that they'll be mucking it up here with the Jets. They just had that high, as you mentioned, with Josh McDaniels being like, oh, they're smoking cigars. Now it's the Jets.
Okay.
Don't see much going on.
So then in the prop bets department, you target the Raiders side, or maybe there's some strong unders with some of these offensive dudes on the Jets because of how limited that group is?
So I think in the passing game, if you want to look at quarterback or receiver unders, that's fine. If there's anywhere you're going over, it's in the running game. Breece Hall and Josh Jacobs are both in the mid-60s. Hall, 65.5 rushing yards.
Josh Jacobs is pissed right now after being fined, and it's getting messy.
Jacobs, 67.5 rushing yards, and you look at these defenses, Jets, 30th in the NFL, 137.3 allowed per game on the ground. Vegas, even worse, 31st, 138.7 allowed per game on the ground. If there's any over you want to target in this game, it is those running backs.
Yep. Jacobs telling the NFL, chill with the BS after his unnecessary roughness fine. Josh, what's a prop you like?
I mean, the Aiden O'Connell one is going to be my play here, Emerson. But I think Julian makes a good point with Breece Hall. This is kind of a pass rush defense, not very good, I should say, for the Raiders here. And again, when I'm looking at these props, I immediately just don't even look at the names, but look at the juice on them, because oftentimes you're going to see, -110, -115, over or under on a receiving, rushing quarterback. But then you get these ones that are like -130, -140. You're really not going to see juice much higher than that. And Breece Hall is 65.5 over -140. So that's a really hefty price. Tells me this could be a big game for Breece Hall. So again, O'Connell under passing, but Breece Hall will be my go-to running back.
Team apparently has confidence in Zach Wilson, quiet confidence, deciding not to sign Carson Wentz. So Monday night, though, maybe a little bit better on paper. At least, some sexy storylines. Broncos at the Bills. Bills haven't really looked all that hot this season, and some are calling tomorrow night, Monday night at home against the Broncos a must-win. Josh Allen knows for certain that tomorrow night provides once again another opportunity for Bills Mafia to get back on track.
Being in that situation, we understand that adversity is going to happen. That's every football season. That's every team. Whether you've got injuries or lulls in your schedule or this or that, it's going to happen, and that's part of the game. We got to find a way to fight through it, and I do still feel supremely confident in the group of guys that we've got here and the leadership that we've got. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow our leaders.
All right, Josh, talking game bet here. Denver was on bye in week 9, went into the break on a high, because they had just upset the Chiefs, won a second straight game Denver has. So don't look now or do. Meanwhile, the Bills really feel like they've started to cave in on themselves, but you just heard what Josh Allen had to say. What do you like for a game bet?
I like a lot in this game, Emerson. I'm locked and loaded tomorrow night, Monday night. So let's get after it. I got to play on the side and the total. Side, I'm going to go Denver Broncos. Give me the points in this one. Broncos are only getting 28% of bets, but 53% of the money. That's one of those bet splits that jumps out to me as a low bet, contrarian play, yet high dollars, sharp money in their favor. And the line has moved toward the Denver Broncos. This was an opener as high as Bills -9, -8.5, -8. Now you're down to 7.5 or 7. If you like Denver, don't wait till tomorrow night. This thing could get down to 7 across the board, painted across at 7s. I think you grab the hook right now if it's available to you, plus 7.5. You mentioned Emerson, they're coming off a bye. Bills are on regular rest. That's an advantage to Denver. And Denver's playing a little bit better. Won their last 2 games. Remember, that was an epic contrarian play that they won outright, getting the points against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then in terms of the under, where's our buddy Steve Buchanan? We got a windy under here, guys. Let's go. We should have an alarm. Anytime you mention weather, wind, just get that alarm going.
Howard, make sure you tag him on Twitter when you post this clip, baby.
So under 40.
He called us dorks yesterday.
46.5.
Dorks.
But the updated forecast, Emerson, your wife is a Buffalo Bills fan. She should be a meteorologist there. We're looking at 10 to 12 mile per hour winds.
Okay.
You also have an under. You want to talk some refs?
Yeah.
Bill Vinovich, one of your top under refs in all of the NFL, 60% overall. Denver Broncos play at the slowest pace in the NFL in terms of plays per game.
Okay.
So Emerson, one of those same game parlays that you were talking about earlier. I think you might load up for tomorrow night.
All right, so you like Denver to cover on the road for the first time this season. That's interesting. The Bills have not lost once at home this year. And Denver, Jules, the key for them has really been protecting the football because they are 3-1 when they have 1 turnover or less.
Yeah, this is a tougher game for me than Josh. I see the appeal of the number in Denver coming down. Look, maybe Denver's just playing better. They've got a couple wins in a row and they're coming off a bye. This was supposed to be a good team coming into the season. Maybe it just took some time with Sean Payton. We'll find out on Monday night, and that's ultimately why I'm passing on a side, because I can also talk myself into Bills -7. They need to get right. This team is 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games. If Denver is that team that we thought they were early in the season, then this is a spot where the Bills can blow them out. So I can talk myself into both sides of this spread, especially with it. I wasn't going to lay 9 with the Bills, but down at 7, you potentially have my interest. So what I do agree with is the under.
Okay.
I would go with the under if you're playing a side in the game. It's a pretty high total. Specifically given how these teams have played lately, that it's in a primetime Monday night slot. It's outdoor in Buffalo as the year is getting a little bit closer to the holidays.
Yeah,
so
it's chilly.
I don't care about the cold, but
I know. I'm just letting you know when the holiday season rolls around, it gets chilly.
thank you.
It was 26 degrees when I woke up this morning in Boston.
That is
It's
crazy. Can
Yeah.
you believe that in November? Anywho, talking props for Monday night. Josh Allen, the Bills, it is literally on paper, it is a fact. The Bills are more successful when he runs the football more, when he plays faster, when he plays looser. The Bills need him to do that. Is there a Josh Allen prop you like, or do you want to go to someone else?
I'm going to someone else, and it's James Cook in the ground game. He only had 6 carries for 20 yards against the Bengals. Prior to that, 14 for 67 Tampa, 13 for 56 Patriots, 14 for 71 against the Giants. His prop is set at 55.5.
Yep, good job.
And we just talked about the 30 and 31st ranked run defenses in the NFL in the Jets and Vegas. Who's dead last? That's the Denver Broncos. They've been a little bit better lately in some of those home wins. They're still dead last at 154.1 yards per game allowed on the ground per game. You know what they average on the road giving up? 205.7 in road games. You're going to Buffalo on Monday night. Give me James Cook over 55.5 rushing yards. 7-point home favorite, pretty well correlated.
Applebaum, go apple picking for us real quick in the props department.
You mentioned Josh Allen, 32.5 rushing yards, over -120. Juiced up over. Does he scramble? I could play that. One that kind of caught my eye was Javonte Williams under receiving yards, 16.5. Sounds pretty low, right? One dump off pass.
Does, yeah.
You could get 20 and cash it.
Skedaddle down the sideline.
But here's the thing, Emerson. I think it's low for a reason. Right? This is almost like that Rutgers game from yesterday, a low total. Under is -130. He has gone under this game number in 6 of his last 8 games.
All right, you guys have helped us find some value there with the primetime picks. We'll do the same when we wrap up the show. The pregame power up. That is what you're watching. Hidden Jewels. Woo! This is your time to shine, baby.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best day of your life, and you don't even know it yet because a historic return for the Hidden Jewel segment here on
There's the graphic.
There it
It has
is!
not changed as I was
There it
promised it would be under construction. But
Looked pretty good there.
I don't know. Listen, without Steve, 2 hours to fill.
It
We
doesn't
said,
highlight my chiseled jaw.
yeah, no, you're doing a great job. Now do a better job, and during this segment, you help people find some value out there. And this doesn't necessarily have to be NFL related for today's
Good,
slate.
it's not.
Okay, great. Your first hidden jewel is what,
Well,
King?
everybody is looking at NFL today. So let's go to college basketball and let's go to the futures market. There is something that has not been highlighted, that has not budged in the futures market in college hoops. We're going out to the West Coast Conference, where Emerson, you and I did a segment before the season started on college basketball futures, and I took St. Mary's to win the West Coast
That's
Conference.
right. It's been
Gonzaga
Gonzaga.
regular season. Gonzaga wins it year after
Love it.
year, but they just lost a ton of talent. Strawther's in the NBA. Drew Timmy's gone. They got a lot thinner. And what can a thin team not afford?
Yeah.
Injuries.
That's true.
So what
need to-
happened?
Go ahead.
Is there something wrong with this analysis? They don't have a deep bench, and
No.
one of their best players on the team is now done for the year. Steele Venters tears his ACL in practice, done for the year. This team loses one of its top guys, doesn't have a bench. They can't replace this production. So I was already going with St. Mary's, who looked fantastic in a win over a good New Mexico team on Friday night to win this conference. The number hasn't budged. It's been plus 130 all along. St. Mary's should be favored to win the West Coast Conference. Go and grab this.
Yeah, I love your.
I was only giggling because you said, "What does a thin man never want?" I thought you were going to go with like a food.
That's where I
reference.
lost it. But I'm also like 12 years old between the ears here.
Yeah, so when a team doesn't have as much depth, you call them thin.
Yes, no, for sure, dude, for sure. Josh, does anything in terms of like systems, market play on VSiN, for the betting systems on the DraftKings Sportsbook, does anything tell you that what Julian is tossing towards us and recommending towards us is a smart recommendation?
I'll ride anything Jules has got. I've got no systems or data, but I'm going to ride his St. Mary's. They have looked good. I do like the contrarian angle of Gonzaga's got to win it every single year, so you pick a different team. There could be value there. But I do have some splits for you, Emerson, in terms of today's games. Just one in particular. If you guys remember, I made a bet with you a little bit earlier today. Would the Houston Texans get down to 5.5?
Yeah.
Emerson, what's that line right now, buddy? 5.5, brother.
It is! Oh my God!
So Houston Texans are falling. Again, looking at the betting splits, they're only getting across the board 24% of bets. So when you're applying a lot of these bet splits that come directly, vsin.com/splits, just bookmark that page. It's not just the percentages comparing bets in dollars, but it's also applying line movement, because you got to have kind of both pieces to the puzzle. The whole goal is to be against the public. That's your bet percentage column. With the sharps, that's your money column. And then line movement is going to give you kind of some backup there. So the fact that Texans only getting 24%, yet they open, again, what was that, as high as, I think I want to say 8, 7, something like that. 6 when we started the show, down to 5.5. That's kind of further indication of game day movement. When the limits get raised, big bets come in. So that's one that caught my eye. And I know it's difficult right now to take any overs, but one just jumped out to me. The Falcons-Cardinals game, Emerson. If you look at that bet split to the over, some wise guys, wise gals, somebody likes the over in this one, because it's only getting 36% of bets, but 74% of the money. And that total did rise 41 to 43.5. Maybe it's about the Falcons here. Their last 2 games, they've been in shootouts, 31-28 to Minnesota, 28-23 against Tennessee. They've gone way over 50. So maybe Kyler Murray has a big game. Maybe the Falcons put up their points. But that is a huge discrepancy. It's very rare you see heavy betting under from the public. Public wants to sweat overs. That's a pretty good discrepancy to the Falcons-Cardinals over.
All right, I believe you have another hidden jewel for us, and it has.
What just happened? Hidden Jewels turned into all these systems. The system segment.
But he
make
but
Josh
he's
his
also
own
supporting-
logo.
But I love this one, because you're going to the Bahamas. We're leaving
nice.
the States. We're going to the Bahamas. I've been to Atlantis. It's great. Incredible water slides. The first time I've ever ridden a jet ski. And you are targeting a basketball tournament, early season basketball tournament here.
I've been down that water slide. I love that we have.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I love that we have these early season tournaments available on DraftKings Sportsbook to bet. Love watching these. Thanksgiving week, a lot of them occur. So, battle for Atlantis. Pretty good field, highlighted by Arkansas, UNC, and Villanova. Arkansas and Villanova are two teams I'm very high on this year. But Arkansas plus 310 to win the battle for Atlantis. This is a pretty good number on what might be a top 10 team here. You look at their side of the bracket, they get the easiest first-round matchup besides UNC playing UNI. They play Stanford. That's a game they should win. They would then play the winner of the Memphis-Michigan game. Memphis just had their starting center ruled ineligible for the season. Michigan's without their best player for the start of the season with a foot injury. That should be a winnable second-round game, and then you are in the championship and you have plus 310 there. Other side of the bracket, I like Villanova a lot, but we're looking at a Villanova-UNC potential coin flip game in the second round. I'll bet Villanova in that game. I would like them, but I don't know with certainty who's going to be there. I feel very confident Arkansas will be there. Then you're holding a plus 310 ticket on the favorite in the championship game, and that's something I want a piece of.
And the winner gets to take a rip down the water slide through the Shark Lagoon. Incredible stuff.
Hopefully put some money in my bankroll.
Any early numbers standing out to you?
Can I just throw a basketball game at you, college hoops, real quick?
Yep. Uh-oh.
Most heavily bet game of the day, Clemson-Davidson. This line's fallen to Davidson, Julian. Yeah, it was minus 9.5 Clemson, down to 8. Any interest in the dog there?
So Davidson just upset, was it Maryland? Davidson just got a big win. I'm not super high on Clemson. They do bring Hall, the big guy, back who plays pretty well. In theory, I like it. Davidson should be a good team if they just beat Maryland. Maryland's a team I like a lot, but is it a letdown spot? Sure. I don't know.
Gentlemen, it's time to do that thing we like after Hidden Jewels. And you guys are going to hook us up with your no sweat bets. All right? Who would like to go first here?
Josh can go first.
What's wrong with you?
There's not a college basketball bet I like today, and my NFL best bet would have already started. Actually, you know what? Hold on.
Look at this. That's live TV, everybody.
Live
Jules
TV.
doing his research.
That's how the sports betting mind works here. I think you're onto something.
Absolutely.
Yep, things are ticking up here. Not always the best thing.
Okay, if you need time, Josh.
All right, so I know the Patriots scored. The Patriots scored first, so I was going to say, you know what? Go just get yourself a better number on the Colts, but they're minus 145 now, which means the Colts must be driving. Obviously, we're not watching. Josh, you can go.
I got Detroit here.
This is ridiculous.
Give me the Lions in this spot. This is my favorite play of the day. Money line Lions, minus 150. You saw the dog to fave line move. They opened getting a point. They flipped all the way to minus 3. I'm a little wary of laying the 3 at this point just because, again, most common key number, margin of victory is 3. Detroit wins by 3. You push your bets. That's why I like to go money lines in this spot. But just a massive rest versus tired advantage. You have Detroit coming off a bye. You have the Chargers on a short week. Had to play East Coast, then travel after a Monday night game. And Detroit in this spot, road favorites off a bye. They've been fantastic, 64% against the spread last 2 decades. And then also you have Dan Campbell covering a lot of numbers. So I'll go money line here. I'm going to be a big Lions fan today here, Emerson.
Is that right? Are you going to be a big Will Levis fan by any chance down in Tampa Bay? I don't think we got to that game earlier in the show. And you heard Jeff is a huge fan of Will Levis. Steve, at least Jeff on the fantasy side, Steve really likes him over 1.5 touchdowns today. And you listen to Steve call you out because of the wind narrative in Southwest Florida today.
And if anyone knows anything about wind in Southwest Florida, it's my guy Emerson right here. So keep an eye out for Raymond James Stadium weather. This is a little bit worrisome for me. I think there's some Tampa Bay smart money here, Emerson. I'm not really sure why, but Tampa Bay opened -1. They're up to -2.5. Tampa Bay is going to -3. So for whatever reason, there is some love for Tampa in this spot.
-2.5 right now in the DK Sportsbook. Yeah.
I think you could tease up Tennessee, though, 2.5 up to 8.5. And this would be, again, another one of those Mike Vrabel dog spots, 60% ATS in his career. But if Tampa wins, don't be surprised. The line's moving in their favor.
Is there any movement on the DK Sportsbook in these NFL games? What do you got?
No sweat bet. Colts money line -118. It's there.
So we're bringing the no sweat
live.
back.
You got to get it now, otherwise it's going to change in a couple minutes.
Second and goal right now, right?
Yep. So I got the number I wanted by waiting for Josh to go and getting from 145 to 118.
That's what friends are for, buddy.
Otherwise, I was going to have to give a college basketball game on Monday that didn't have a number out yet, but can still do that.
Well, I'm glad you decided not to do that. And
St. John's is going to beat Michigan on
here.
Monday. I'll give it to you anyway.
All right, we got to go. It was great to spend the weekend with you and all of you watching as well. Pre-game power-up will continue with the Lombardi line from 10 to high noon. Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff from noon to kickoff at 1 following the Lombardi line.